this demo, we'll be going through managing, using, and creating save views and reports. From the main menu, you will see there is a reporting menu option. And as you navigate to the top, you'll see there are save reports and views. You'll also see below that are many license reports that are currently available out of the box with Flexera 1. If you know what the name or a brief description of the report is, you can also type in the search. I'm going to type in Microsoft and look for some Microsoft type reports. You can see that I have an optimization report, Windows Server optimization report, some compliance reports, and a contract report. I'm going to go to reporting, and we're going to start with save views. The reason why I'm starting with save views is that many of the reports that need to be generated can be generated directly from the view without creating a custom report. Save views, as you can see, have a folder structure, which you can create your own folder and create your own container here for your views. Each view is saved by title, and you can provide a description, and you can grant either public or private access. Private meaning only you can see that when logged in, and public meaning everyone can see that view. I have one saved here, or 3 saved here as an example. This will bring up my view pre-filtered with the fields added and how I want to consume that. This is exportable out to a CSV, PDF, RTF, or XLS. This is exactly how our licensing or our reporting module works. When do you need a report versus a view? The rule of thumb for me is if I'm looking at a view and I think it has the information I need in it, but there's a field missing and it is not available in the column chooser, that is when you will likely need a custom report. If I go to my reporting menu option now and go to save reports, you will see that I have a very similar structure under reports. There are some color differences there. We do have the ability to add a folder or structure by clicking the plus folder sign, and you do have the ability to edit that. These are custom reports, and also many of the reports that you would see off of the menu system would be here too. So if I was to go under inventory, these are all found on the menu system as well, but can be accessed through this grid. Sometimes people find that easier than scrolling up and down the large list. These reports can be run by clicking the execute. You can then click run report. They can default with default filters, and then you would run that report. You go back to my save reports. This is also where you would create a new report. I'm going to navigate to this inventory folder here, and you would click create a report. The icon that's a page with a plus sign on that. Wherever you click the create from will be the default save location. You can change that when you save. I'm just going to create that one under this inventory folder, and I'm going to click create. By default, you'll get a getting started here, and creating a report is a 3-step process. Configure, preview and filter, and then save as. You can also close this reference box so you have a bit more screen real estate to work with from a report. On the configure section, you would choose the tables that you are looking for. In my case, I want to create a license report, and so I am going to add the license. I don't need the edition and the version necessarily, so I can remove those. Also, the tick box here, include in search, means that field would be searchable from the global search once we save this, and I'll be sure to point that out. So I have my license name. I would like to know who the publisher is of that license. So I can scroll over, and under the license table here, I can find my publisher field and can add that. The next thing I want to know is the installations consuming those licenses. So that is not in the license table or looked up from the manager, parent license, publisher, or vendor. So I'm going to need to add an additional table. So I am going to hit my drop down and I am going to link to the installations table. I'm going to select that. By default, it will add a few fields here. It's adding the application name, which I want, the publisher, which I already have. The version is very nice to have. Since I want to know the user, I'm going to add another table to get the inventory device. And so I can add a third table. And notice my list gets smaller because it needs to have a direct relation to the structure that you've already created, and the system knows what can be linked and what cannot. I'm going to select Inventory Device and click Add. So now I know the name of the license, the publisher, the application, the version, the inventory device name. Also, I want to know the calculated user. So I can look down here. It's not in the inventory device, but it's on one of the items that can be looked up from the inventory device table. And so I'm going to select calculated user, and I am going to add that username. So I'm going to put the username there. Also going to add, let's say, email address. At this point in time, I have the fields that I want populated in my report, and I have determined which ones I want to be included in the search and which ones I don't. In my case, I'm just going to select them all. And my next step would be preview and filter. When you select preview and filter, it will give you a subset of these records, the first 1,000. In my case, I'm working with a smaller data set, and so it presented with everything. And so this is where you can decide the order you want these fields in. So let's say I want the publisher name before the license name. I can move that around. Let's say I only want to see Microsoft. I only want to see licenses for Microsoft. I only want to see applications labeled as Visio. And I only want to see the desktops. I know my desktops start with DT and my laptops start with LT. And so I'm going to type in DT and change my filter to begins with DT. And so I think I have my report the way I want that presented, but I'm not for sure I want to expose that email address. I can actually add the email address to the column chooser, and it will be available to use when you run the report if you so choose. So at this point in time, I have my columns in the order I want. I've linked 3 tables together and have fields from both. I've done a lookup to the calculated user. And so now we're ready for step 3, and that is to save. When I save, I would give my report a name. And the description, it's always a good thing to do, is document what those filters were. Microsoft, Visio, desktops. So people know when they use this report, if you are sharing that it is pre-filtered on Microsoft, Visio, and desktops. The next thing you have to choose is permissions. It would default to private. Private means only you can see this report. You also have the option to select public. The good thing about public is if you are concerned, if you're not sharing because you're concerned somebody's going to modify your report, then you can rest assured that you can share as public and they cannot modify your original report. What they can do is they have access to that report. They could save a copy for themselves, a save as, and then edit from there. So in most cases, I put things in as public. You can see my Save To location defaulted to where I started under this inventory section there. So I'm going to leave that there, but I most certainly could change this and direct where that is going to be located. I would then hit Save, and then I would be able to run the report. Notice your description is up above there, so I know how this is going to be filtered. The searched in field that we checked, this is the box you could use to search across those fields. In my case, I embedded filters into this, and so I am just going to run my report. You can see I have my 98 Microsoft Visio desktops on my report here. I can export out to the format of my choosing. Also, if I decided I wanted the email address, I could pull that out of the column chooser and use that as well. You can also use the grouping functionality to group by, let's say, application name. So you have all of these same abilities in the reporting module that you do in the management module.